Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball. Purdue handles business on the road once again, this time against a tough ranked Big Ten foe in the Oregon Ducks. But without further ado, let's run it. In the second game of their two-game West Coast trip, the Boilermakers visited Eugene, Oregon to take on the Ducks and grinded out another defensive, gritty win, 65 to 58. Shooting wasn't there for either team except for Purdue's surprising success from the free throw line, but they made up for it with their newfound defensive intensity, which I am absolutely loving to see. But let's get into the game. Purdue went to TKR early and often, and early on it really wasn't working. He was working hard for every shot, and Nate Biddle had his number in the post. Thankfully, Oregon wasn't on either. A couple of turnovers and missed shots from each side left the score at 6-5 just as it reached the 16-minute mark, very similar to the Washington game for Purdue. The rest of the half was very back and forth of a lot of little runs for each team. Purdue took the lead by 5, only for Oregon to storm back and take the lead by 2 just 2 minutes later. The latter half of the first half had a lot of fouls and free throws, and those would be just the beginning of Purdue's biggest ally this game, the free throw line. When it was all said and done, the halftime buzzer sounded. Oregon had retaken the lead just barely 31 to 30. These two teams picked up right where they left off, going back and forth with both teams scoring on their opening possession of the second half. But after that, Purdue started to open up things a little bit while Oregon went ice cold. That first bucket for Oregon came at 19:50, just 10 seconds into the second half. They went on an 8-minute ice cold streak without a single point until a Jadrian Tracy 3 with 11:35 on the clock. In that time, Purdue was able to grind away and build up a bit of a lead, but the Tracy 3 brought that lead right back to 5, so it was very much still a game. Oregon just wouldn't go away, and within a couple of minutes, Jackson Shellstad brought the lead back to 1 with a 3 of his own. But then TKR woke up. Despite struggling for a big portion of the game, he still has an innate ability to score, and he scored 6 straight points to put Purdue back up by 7 with 5.5 to play. Oregon tried to fight back once again, but he wasn't done. He got 4 more points and helped get some pressure off of Braden Smith, who got 4 points of his own in the last 5 minutes, and from there, Purdue was just in the driver's seat, enough to take this game to the free throw line. In the last 2.5 minutes, Purdue went 9 for 12 from the free throw line and kept the Ducks at bay, and even with an Oregon layup with 5 seconds to go, the final score stood at 65 to 58. Heading into the top performers at the top, despite his struggling, still Trey Kaufman-Renn with 23 points, but on 7 of 20 from the floor. This guy is typically like a 60% shooter from the floor, and he didn't even shoot 40% in this one. But he made up for that by being 9 for 9 from the free throw line. He also doesn't even shoot 60% from the free throw line most of the time. So to see this out of him was fantastic, and it made all the difference in this game, as he is someone who gets to the free throw line a lot, but doesn't typically make that much. So for him to go perfect at that volume is fantastic. I really wish that he can keep up whatever he did to get himself on that game. He added on 11 rebounds, an assist, as well as 2 turnovers in his 33 minutes. Behind him, once again, Braden Smith with his usual 15 points on 5 of 15 shooting, so he was struggling to hit a lot this game as well. Couldn't find a 3. He was 0 for 3 from deep, but he was 5 for 6 from the free throw line and added on 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals, but as well as 5 turnovers in his 40 minutes. For Oregon, starting off with Nate Biddle, who, like I mentioned, had TKR's number, but he also was finding ways to score on the offensive end too. He had 18 points on 5 of 12 shooting, 3 for 9 from 3. So for their 7 foot center to be shooting 3 for 9 from 3 is pretty crazy. But he was 5 for 5 from the free throw line and tacked on 2 rebounds, a steal, and more importantly, 6 blocks in his 32 minutes. He was absolute defensive menace, which we'll talk about later. Secondly is Jackson Shellstad for Oregon with 15 points of his own on 4 for 12 shooting, so he didn't have a great shooting night, but 3 of those shots were from 3. He was 3 for 8 from deep. He added 4 free throws of his own, perfect 4 for 4, and 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, but also 2 turnovers in his 37 minutes. As for honorable mentions, for Purdue, it's actually Cam Heide off the bench. He only had 9 points, but it was on 2 of 3 shooting, 1 for 1 from 3, which was one of the few threes that they made in this game. He was 4 for 5 from the free throw line and tacked on 4 rebounds and a steal of his own in just 22 minutes. So he was a much needed presence off of the bench that helped Purdue in this one. And for Oregon, it was Brandon Angel, who got 10 points of his own on 4 of 6 shooting. He was 2 for 4 from the free throw line and added on 5 rebounds and assists, but he did foul out in his just 24 minutes. Heading into the key team points for Purdue, it's 3-point shooting on the road. We're now looking at the second game in a row where Purdue has struggled mightily to shoot the three ball away from home, just 2 for 12 from deep. If they could have even gotten a couple more to fall, it would have been massive for putting this game away earlier. Thankfully for them, they head into a couple game home stretch coming up, but it's going to get tougher and tougher to win Big Ten road games. They're not knocking down threes the way we know they can. Secondly, it's crashing the glass. When Purdue was struggling to make twos and threes alike in the first half, what kept them in the game and even gave them the lead for a little bit was their ability and determination to attack the offensive glass. TKR had 6 offensive rebounds alone, including his putback dunk off of a Braden Smith miss, and the team ended up with 12 offensive rebounds on the night. I don't know if there was a specific part of the game plan, but they went after their missed shots harder than I think that I've seen all season, and it was crucial to them staying in this game. And thirdly, it's free throws. The Boilers shot a whopping 30 free throws in this game, and their ability to knock them down was one of the biggest reasons they closed out this game. Going 25 for 30, or 83% as a team, is fantastic for them compared to their usual 72% average. TKR especially struggles mightily with his free throws usually, but like I said earlier, he must have done something different in this pregame because he was a perfect 9 for 9. And with him struggling to be as efficient from the floor as he typically is, he needed those 9 points to get him over 20 on the night and redeem his iffy shooting performance. For Oregon, it starts off with turnovers. This was another opponent of Purdue's that averages around 11 turnovers per game, but struggled with this new look Purdue defense and gave the ball away a lot. 16 turnovers for them in this one, and so many were miscommunication on where players should be. Someone would drive and look to kick out to a shooter, only for the shooter to move right as the pass was thrown, sending the ball soaring out of bounds. They just looked discombobulated with the disruptive nature of Purdue's defense, and it fed into some big scoring droughts for Oregon throughout the game. Secondly, it's Biddle's rim protection. There's absolutely something to be said about TKR's inefficient shooting night being caused by Nate Biddle, because he had him struggling to even get clean shots over Biddle's outstretched 7-foot wingspan. Not only did he alter so many shots, but he also ended up with 6 blocks on the night. 6. He averages 2 blocks per game, so he clearly has a knack for this. Good rim protection is invaluable, and it kept Purdue at bay when they were trying to do most of their work on the inside in this game, and I'm sure that TKR will watch this game tape and try to add some more moves to his bag to avoid shooting under 40% again. And thirdly, it's bench production. One of the bigger discrepancies between both teams in this game was production off the bench. Both teams brought 4 guys off the bench for some significant combined minutes, but Purdue was able to get 17 points out of theirs, while Oregon was only able to get 8 out of their 4 guys. The biggest disappointment was Keyshawn Barthélemy, who usually averages 10 points per game, only ending up with just 2 on 0 of 4 shooting, 3 of those misses being threes, in 29 minutes. For him to be seeing that much floor time, Oregon needs more out of him if they want to be more successful in Big Ten play. But Purdue gets to leave their West Coast trip triumphant and head back to West Lafayette, where the Ohio State Buckeyes will come into town on Tuesday, looking to shake up the Big Ten standings. As for Oregon, they get another home game to try to bounce back against a struggling Washington team on Tuesday after their 4-3 start to Big Ten play. But that's all I've got for today. Lots more games happening very soon as we're in the heart of Big Ten play, and I'll keep trying to cover as much as I can. Before you know it, it'll be Big Ten tournament time, and then the madness will really be upon us. But if you want more from us, like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm out.